Hi there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for today, and this is a continuation of our test server release videos. This is the part of the DLC launching on April 16th, Birds of Prey. We're on to the first of two raids, Fire and Brimstone. This is going to be the regular variant of this raid, and I'll be fire tanking as you can see here. This raid was designed by Jack Frost. If you're not aware of his resume as a developer, he did Monsters of Metal, he did Fellowship of the Arcane, he also did The Throne, he did like the Batscape duo. I know he did more, I just can't remember as much of it, but you can kind of get the sense there if it's FOA, Mom, and The Throne. So this is going to be his raid. So at the beginning, I should probably shut up for the rest of the cutscene here.
Done? Hardly. But this is going to cost me a fortune in overtime payroll. So
it's always that bad habit of mine. I always continue to. I think it's because it's like I'm listening to the video or I'm kind of doing this live commentary while I'm having the video in the background. But since I have it muted, I'm not thinking, oh yeah, there's a cutscene here. They're talking. I'm sure players want to follow the storyline. I know storyline aspects are a big part of DC, and that's why people play them. So it's people like their cutscenes in terms of being able to follow the progression of the DLC. So in terms of beginning here, it's really just a big mess of dogpile of ads. You're going to see that the ad spawn from the two doors, kind of right where I'm looking now, from my left and right. So that's essentially where they're going to spawn. Really, there's no danger to these ads at all, so you can melee them without kind of an issue. Obviously, you have to watch for those fire pools, not stand them, but I mean that's just common sense. So another cutscene. This time I'll shut up.
I'd like to point out that you're trespassing on private property and interfering with a highly sensitive and volatile mining procedure.
Well, why didn't you say so? Show us your permits for building this secret volcano mining facility and we'll all go home.
I suppose this just proves that old adage, if you want someone killed.
So we have that witty repartee from Lex Luthor. Now, in a moment, we're going to have 3 deaths, and I'm not entirely sure what caused that, so you're going to see it right about now. So, Lex Luthor, you can't aggro him initially because he's got to float down from the sky, which I'm pretty sure I did have a taunt on because, as you can see in the combat log, he's range tapping me, so obviously he's attacking me. I've got a taunt on him, so I'm not sure what entirely killed the group. I know they had that, I don't know, the LexCorp bots or whatever, LexCorp Pulverizer did that sonic shout thing towards them, but I mean, I don't think that's strong enough to wipe 3 people in regular, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. I paused it, did slow motion of it, didn't really see it, but another cutscene here.
Your interference has activated the techno scene.
Fire Brimstone, Angel of Apocalypse, will destroy you dogs in the name of his master.
Help me contain this monster you've awakened. Brimstone could destroy the entire planet if we don't stop him here.
We awakened? This is your fault, Luthor.
Yeah, so I'm still not really sure. I know Lex Luthor can fire these rockets, that they're more of an issue in Elite, but I didn't see them. I know they kind of be bugged and can be invisible sometimes, but I mean, I didn't see that in regular, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But, not in the case. This is going to be the Brimstone fight. It's really straightforward. Think of it kind of like Terror fight in Hive. The biggest thing you have to remember about this fight is that it's proximity aggro based. What that means is that the person closest to Brimstone is going to be taking that aggro. Whether I'm a tank, a healer, or DPS, if you're standing closer to him than the tank, you'll have aggro. So that's kind of demonstrated. It's going to be demonstrated really clearly in a few moments. But right at the bat, you can see him attacking the group. So that's an issue there. As you can see as well, repair the turret control system. So the group needs to spread out around in the circle to be able to repair those turrets. I know it's the whole test server kind of tunnel vision DPS aspect of it. But ideally, I would be standing where the group is right now because Brimstone is the closest to that edge. So, but I can't go over there because then he's going to be attacking the group right on top of everyone and doing an attack like that. The Brimstone Flames of Apocalypse, that is the killer in Elite. That will destroy your shields in Elite. Regular, it's not too bad. Hit me for 100k through a fire tank, so it's reasonable in regular. But that's one of the strongest attacks you have to watch out for. But the issue is that if I went over to the group and stood there, and they're not going to move, they're probably just going to DPS with me because they don't understand what's going on. And if you did that a Fire Apocalypse thing, I could wipe the group by standing there. So it's one of those things where when this raid comes out, be mindful that it's proximity aggro based, and you may have to move. The tank doesn't have to move, the group has to move. Because if I move preemptively and then the other group doesn't move, I'm going to end up wiping players. So as you can see as well, he will expand out that fire pool. So as you can see, there's not really much places for me to stand. Right now, I'm in aggro range. The dot's not too bad. It's like 20k. So it's reasonable and regular. But as you can see, I'm going to the edge here. Right now, I'm in gray range, so I have to get closer to keep the taunt on him. So ideally, once again, just the way Brimstone was positioned, I should have been closer to that other edge on the door. But all the players are still there. So, you know, whether or not they should have moved or I should have moved and then force them to move, you know, that's something that can be brought up later. As the fight goes on, you'll see these things open up. That's because Superman is doing Frost Breath and cooling down areas of the fight. So they will basically, he'll do one section, then he'll do another section. So then as he does that, the first section will move to being lava again. So basically, it's not so much of a difference or so much of a matter in regular. This is more for Elite. In Elite, the tank has to move to the last portion each time to give him the greatest distance. So as you can see, this is the proximity aggro I'm typing here. Preventing, as you can see there, he's for some reason meleeing the boss as Celestial. So the issue is that I can't be closer to him because he's basically melee right now. So basically he's tanking the boss. I can't move. So I'm obviously typing in chat for him to move. I'm trying to position away. As you can see, once again, proximity aggro based. I can't do anything about it. The other aspect of what hurts proximity aggro is that on a res, he stays on the res. So other players are going to go and try to res him. And since it's proximity based, you basically have to roll into Brimstone and then slowly walk him back away from the res, which he doesn't always cooperate there. So it's just one of those things where 100% completely avoided by not being proximity to aggro. You don't need to be, just range single target. There's absolutely no reason for you to be. So the other aspect of this is it's more of as a tank portion. Brimstone is brawling, so you can technically melee tank this fight. Not in Elite because you'll get destroyed, but in regular you can sit in the pools and melee if you have a healer, because we only have one healer. If you have two healers, you can do that. Just be mindful that he's always going to be brawling attacking you. His brawling, like elbow drop or his like backhand, like they will hurt you. You will take a lot of damage, but it is possible. So just be mindful that he's brawling based, and he'll spam brawling combos on you, so you can block and knock him down. Really, only his other attack that was an issue, well, not really an issue, but that's going to be high damage, is his Spike Quake. That's the same attack as Terra. Terra, the same one. This little fire or lava pool wave that it didn't really damage me at all. That could have just been through Immolation or Heartlight Shield, but I mean, I wasn't too worried about it. But the Spike Quake and then the Apocalypse Flames, those are his two big attacks, besides him being melee. So you can knock him down. But that fight is basically just tank and spank. So it's tank and spank with proximity aggro. Really, the group doesn't have to worry about too much. It's just basically moving from pool to pool. Yeah, so lava, what was that? Lava even flow, 13k, 9k, yeah, it's nothing. But in terms of, because I know some people don't like commentary just focused on the raid, because obviously when the Elite comes out, I'll do basically the Elite breakdown mechanic video like I always do, but that's on live server. I can talk basically about fire tanking as well. It's one of those things where, yeah, fire tank saw some big changes, especially how the fire soul worked in terms of its base defense. The Immolation saw a big change, which they're changing again because it's a little bit too strong. But it's one of those things where you can notice the difference with fire. Like, as you can see, my health is like barely dipping. I'm in suggested CR levels. I'm basically just in max vendor gear from the previous DLC. No OP items. I have health max, but then, like, you know, I think I have 60 skill points in Resto and the rest in Dom, so I'm missing 150 skill points than I would have on live server. Yeah, my artifacts are 200, but I mean, that's not really hard. Like, my artifacts on live are 200 too. So it's one of those things where you can certainly see a difference in fire. Like, my health is barely budging a lot most of the time. It's not so much the heals got better on fire. It's just that the defense, basically the defense was increased, so with that combination with the Everman prototype and Koom's giving more defense. So I've got high health, I've got decent defense. Now it's not like the highest or like that compared to like Ice or Earth, but it was buff defense. Immolation saw a big change, there's more damage mitigation. I'll do more of a breakdown video in terms of comparing the tanks now after the fact. But you can see here, he does Brimstone, Flames of Apocalypse. That was his strongest attack. Hit me for 120k and brought me to like half health. So, and that's I don't think I had immolation or anything active there, so it's just me just standing around taking 120k hit. So it's not like before. Like if you look at my, actually it's a cutscene here. I should shut up.
I needed your help to defeat him. Thank you.
Called it.
Containing that power could destroy you, Luthor. Let us help before it's too late.
Do you think I got the math wrong? I distracted you and your allies at every turn. You exceeded my expectations a few times, but I always have a contingency. Now, the power of your creation is mine. Before I reshape the world into my liking, I'll destroy you, Kryptonian.
Superman's not alone, Lex. Warsuit Jimmy Olsen is on the scene.
Olsen, that's my armor, which makes you my ally.
Uh-oh. Maybe I didn't think this through.
Yeah, so the fire tanking, it's one of those things that's a bit harder to describe, but you can noticeably see an increase in your basically your survivability. Like if you compare this back to like my SG videos where I was fire tanking, like my health is dipping, the bar is going crazy, I feel like if a healer died, I'd be dead. That's not the case with this DLC, or sorry, not the case with fire in general now. Like I've also done like Clock Tower League, tanking the Catwoman and Poison Ivy fight, which you'll see when I upload that video. But I've been tanking them as fire and didn't have an issue in Elite. Like I still had good survivability. Obviously Rage tanking was fine too. I was soloing it for most of the fight until the drones came out as Rage. But you know, fire is certainly competitive with tanking now. That's not an issue before. I'm not going to say it's OP or anything like that. It's just that fire is in a much better state than it was before. So in this fight, really nothing super changes. You just basically got control Jimmy Olsen. You get him down low in health. Then the Lex Luthor will come out. As you can see, like override control. Ads will come out. The ads basically will walk towards the turrets that you have to watch out for. So actually right there on the screen you saw XO die. That's Bunker Buster. Lex Luthor's going to do that. That's the only thing you have to watch out for. It's the same thing as like Survival Mode. It's the same Bunker Buster mechanic attack that we've had for a long time. It'll stun you initially, just break out and roll or get away from it. Don't stand in it, don't try to get a res after the fact because the Bunker Buster attacks will still go. But that's all you have to watch it out for. So as you do, Alpha Lex Luthor will come down. In regular, he has two, regular and Elite basically. You'll have these orbital attacks. It's all white damage, you'll see that. It's a huge white aura. In Elite, it'll one-shot you. In regular, I tried to stand in it. I just took Immolation. I was just trying to see how much damage it would do. It didn't really deal much at all. Maybe like 15k, 10k, stuff like that. So I think it's just a matter of regular just being super toned down and easy. But I'm essentially standing in this. You would never stand in Elite. I just popped Immolation. I didn't really take any damage. I took what, 13k, 10, 18? So I'm just trying to look at the combat log as I'm doing this commentary. But yeah, it's hardly any damage. So I really wouldn't worry about that in regular, but technically that you would. So basically he'll drop to an orbital, he'll pull you in, but you just have to get out of his orbital radius. That's all you have to really worry about. Yeah, in terms of the rest of the fight, it's just basically tank and spank again. This is a much easier of the two raids. Clock Tower has much more mechanics to it. This is basically going to be the farm raid, essentially, like easy marks. I think, what was this, like a 15, 16 minute run? And obviously the DPS will vary in skill, but I mean, solo tank, solo heal. In Elite, I've done this once, but not after the changes. It's just more trying to find a group in Elite. So Elite, you don't really have any drastic differences in mechanics. It's just everything's increased damage. That's all it is. But yeah, more so going on talking about the tanks in terms of their changes. Fire saw the Immolation change, it saw the Fire Soul change in terms of his base defense. Rage got slightly nerfed in terms of when you hit Fever? Basically that mechanic, instead of it being 100% buff, now it's a 50% buff. I mean, you don't really notice that. I mean, maybe if you're Rage main, you only Rage tank, you'll see a difference, but I mean, people have been solo everything, tanking Rage just as easy as they were before. And, you know, Rage is still an extremely powerful tank just based on its mechanics. So that didn't change at all. Like for example, you guys won't really understand what I'm talking about because you haven't seen the footage yet. But if Clock Tower Elite first boss is Poison Ivy and Catwoman, it's a really heavy damage fight. It's meant to be basically 2-tanked and spread apart, and I was solo tanking that as Rage for 80% of the fight until the very end, where we got overwhelmed with extra drones they added came out. So, I mean, 2 damage, 2 bosses that you're supposed to solo, like 2-tank to separate them. They both have like heavy hitting skulls that do like hundreds of K damage, and I was solo tanking with the Rage. So, I mean, people, I saw on the forums that people think, oh, Rage is hugely nerfed, why would you do that to Rage? It's not. Rage is still probably the best tank in the entire game after these changes, and it was nerfed. So it just goes to show you how strong Rage was as a tank before, that it can get nerfed, and it would still be the best tank. So, I mean, if you're a Rage tank now, or you're worried about, oh, they're nerfing Rage, or you hear people talking on live server about them nerfing Rage, I mean, just tell them to shut up, because they're full of themselves. They have no idea what's going on. So same thing, I'm sitting in the Bunker Buster, I'm sitting in the Orbitals and not taking any noticeable damage at all. My health is barely even budging as a fire tank. The healer's 302 CR, I'm probably getting spam healed, but I mean, once again, my health is not even budging as fire. And I've got the Everyman prototype on, so now because my health isn't budging and you're always full, I've got that buff defense from it as well. So, but yeah, back to the tanks. Earth is the interesting change. I still have to test that. I haven't Earth tanked yet on test server. That saw some changes with Totem in terms of its heals, so it's more focused around healing Brick, because Earth didn't really need any changes at all. It's just that a Brick build is somewhat susceptible to extra damage because healers don't really heal Brick at all, which I'll be doing a video on as well. I want to do a video on NPC healing, because that's something that most healers don't. Like when you have an Earth tank, most healers are bringing their same loadout. They're like, okay, this is how we heal this raid. That's fine. You need to change your loadout and change your rotation as a healer if you have an Earth tank, or even in general if you have, say, like a sorcery or like a sorcery DPS, sorcery prep DPS. Doesn't matter if they're using Grand Summoning or they have Fury. Like you need to be able to account for healing those pets. So you may think, oh yeah, that's just, if I'm doing like DME or something like that, where you're soloing the pets and buffing them and giving them supply drops and giving them heals, you're just like, inflating your heals on the scorecard. It's not. You need to heal pets, especially as an Earth tank. So I'll shut up again for this last cutscene.
We'll get you out of that.
I don't need your help.
Did Lex Luthor just explode? When I explode, there'll be more confetti and glitter.
Getting trace of that there's a lot we don't know about sourcing.
We should circle the room a few times. Make sure
And there it is. Less than 18 minutes, not a big deal. I probably talked way too much about the raid itself and its mechanics than actually talking about tanks or anything, so it's kind of, once again, a kind of a split up commentary, but take care guys, thanks for watching.